I think that I would get too big-headed if I listened to the podcast. I mean, hearing myself be as great as I am, that would kind of get old.
1, 2. Check me out right here, yo.
All right, welcome to today's Get Buckets podcast, sponsored by Yahoo Fantasy Hockey, the official fantasy hockey league of the Get Buckets podcast, and possibly the most fun you'll have ever. Kyle, what's going on today?
Not much, Harv. Fantasy hockey is probably not going to be the most fun I've ever had. I'll go ahead and say it. But if it is, I get to take Joey to a Dallas Stars game. Don't forget to like the podcast on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at GetBuckets_pod.
Awesome. All right, let's knock this out. We don't have a lot to talk about today. It's a boring week. So let's start with our most impressive teams. And since I know they're the same impressive team, who is the most impressive team from this past weekend?
Oklahoma State.
Very good guess. Very good guess. What was impressive to you about their play?
More than anything, the fact that they found themselves in a huge hole at halftime, 20-3, at Kyle Field, one of the louder stadiums in college football, and managed to come out and shut the Aggie faithful up and really just come from behind and hold on to that lead. Even with a few minor mistakes like Blackman fumbling the ball through the end zone, they still managed to pull it out.
Yeah, they made the plays when they had to. The second half was all Oklahoma State, and not that I'm counting, but I am. I got this game right.
Do you remember my reasoning for picking this game?
No, I don't, actually. I just remember you were rooting for me, which was a good choice because I won.
I picked A&M because it would be easier for my heart to pick A&M. That way, if they lost, I was still happy. And if they won, I got a little bit of a benefit out of it by picking correctly.
You still lost.
But I won.
I think we all win when A&M loses, right?
That's what I'm getting at here.
Okay, awesome. Baylor looked impressive in their demolition of Rice. I think it was impressive early, and then Scrubs started playing, and it wasn't as impressive.
Yeah, special teams is still an area of concern. A couple fumbles on kickoff returns. But other than that, Robert Griffin is, to this point, a force to be reckoned with.
He's playing out of his mind. What's the stat? 13 touchdowns and 12 incompletions on the year?
Yes, and 2 of those incompletions are actually just dropped passes. So while that is the stat, it could be something like 13-10. And mind you, this is incompletions, not interception.
Yeah, incompletions. So he's on a very frantic pace, and he's got some legitimate Heisman steam going. People are talking. He was on national radio today. I assume it's only going to continue if he keeps this up.
Absolutely, and I guess a key to that is Baylor's going to have to keep winning. They're going to need to beat Kansas State this week and then follow up and beat Iowa State before they head to College Station to play A&M.
Let's talk about that. How are you feeling about the Baylor Bears with their record and going forward before A&M?
Well, it's the first time they've been undefeated through non-conference play since, I think, 2005. So, I mean, that's always a positive. But first road test coming up against Kansas State, who, if you looked at the also receiving votes, is the 31st ranked team in the nation this week. And it's kind of nerve-wracking because they're going to be a good team. They just beat Miami. And Baylor's still not really sure what exactly they have. We have an explosive offense, a defense that seems to have a ton of holes in it still, even though it is improving. But we're just not sure how to gauge beating TCU because TCU hasn't really played anybody of note to see how good they actually are.
We're going to keep going with Baylor and play a game of overrated, underrated, one of our favorite games here. Baylor at 15th in the nation. Do you think they are overrated or underrated?
I think the voters have put them exactly where they should be put, but I'm not sure that Baylor is the 15th best football team in the nation. It's just hard to put anyone else above them after Baylor's 3-0 with a win over TCU.
That was well said. Because I do think they're overrated by their ranking, but I can't justify moving them down based on the teams that are below them. But saying that Baylor's the 15th best team in the nation, I think, is an overstatement until we see some more. Maybe a few wins, and then going to A&M and beating A&M would be, I think that'd be really huge for that entire program.
I agree, and I think a win at Kansas State could really end up being a big win. I guess we'll wait and see if we can pull that off. A few years ago, when Kansas State played A&M, the same year they played A&M in the Big 12 championship, Kansas State ran up the score at Baylor's homecoming in Waco with Snyder as the coach. So I think they're going to want a little bit of revenge, even though none of those players are the same. Just the memory of what Snyder did to Baylor in Waco on their homecoming, scoring as the clock expired. Hopefully that'll be a little motivation.
All right, moving on. Alabama's ranked second. Do you think they are overrated or underrated? Push? You think they're right where they need to be?
I think they're right where they need to be. I think LSU, Oklahoma, and Alabama are the top three teams in the nation. And I think on a neutral field, Oklahoma is the worst of the three.
I'll say they're underrated. I think they're the best team.
He said it. Not me. He said it.
Yes, I did. Yeah, Alabama's given us no reason to think that they are not the best team. Every game they've gone into, they've won very handedly. Their defense is, I think, the most impressive. LSU's is very impressive, but Alabama's just gets after people. I think people thought before this weekend that Arkansas was going to be a big game, and they were the 14th best team in the polls, apparently, and Alabama went through them like it was nothing. But no one's talking about that win like it was a big win. It was just like, Alabama won. I mean, they beat supposedly a really good team, and I think we'll find more about Arkansas this weekend. But I'm really impressed with Alabama, and I think they're good quarterback play away from being national championship. Do you think Stanford at number 6 is overrated or underrated?
Again, I think Stanford is probably rated right where they should be. They haven't really beat anyone of note. They're kind of coasting off of their performance from last year and coasting off of Andrew Luck. I guess the big difference in Stanford is they had a coaching change, but they haven't really been tested yet, so we're just going to have to wait and see. I think they're in the right spot, but I'm not sure that they're the sixth best team in the nation. I think they'll lose 1 or 2 games in the Pac-12.
You've pushed 3 times. We're playing overrated or underrated. We're not playing push.
Well, at this point, I would like to compliment everyone that's voting in these polls. Either that, or I should say something bad about Nathan for picking all the teams that have been ranked perfectly so far. But anyways, let's go on.
I think they're overrated, because I don't think they're the 6th best team. Deal? Moving on to Texas at number 17. Do you think they're overrated or underrated?
Overrated.
Why?
Texas should not have been really very close to the top 25 to start the year. Garrett Gilbert never impressed anyone last year, and he came back slotted as their starting quarterback for this year. They got ranked because they were Texas and because they have a reputation for being good. I do think they're a top 25 team, but not with Gilbert at quarterback, which he no longer is. I think they're more in the 20 to 25 range until they actually beat someone and make it look convincing. 34-9 over Rice, squeaking out a win over BYU, and then they went and played well against UCLA, but how good is UCLA, who I believe had lost to Houston the week before? and I note that Houston is good. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but UCLA isn't great by any means.
I'm going to say they're underrated because I look at the teams in front of them, and I think they can beat the majority of them. By that, I think they would beat South Florida. I think they would beat Baylor. I think they'd beat A&M and Florida. I think they would beat all those teams, and so I would go with underrated. All right, Kyle. Do you think...
I would like to take this time to note that Baylor is on a one-game win streak against the University of Texas at Austin, and note that they are ranked higher than Texas is right now. And I would like to tell Nathan that he is an idiot for not giving Baylor any love in that circumstance, because Floyd Casey is going to be rocking when Texas comes to town, and we're taking them out for the second year in a row.
I don't doubt it'll be rocking, but they have more talent. So I think they're the better team.
They have more talent, but do they have more heart?
That's the dumbest thing you've ever said. Florida at 12, overrated or underrated?
I'm not done with this whole Texas thing yet.
Oh my gosh.
I believe that Baylor has... I know that Baylor has a better quarterback.
Yeah.
I am fairly certain that through the depth of the receiving core, Baylor has better receivers.
You have better chemistry with your quarterback. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
Okay. Baylor has... The offensive line is probably something close to a push.
Yeah, we're not probably ones to gauge that either.
Right. Running back, Texas has the edge, which could change a little bit if Seastrunk becomes eligible, which we don't know if he will or not. Defensively, Texas is more talented, but
by far.
Texas' defense has to be more talented than Baylor's offense, which is going to be tough to accomplish. I think it was very broad of you to say that Texas is more talented and that they will beat Baylor.
I didn't say they would beat Baylor at all. Did I say that?
You did.
I did not.
You said that Texas is underrated.
They are because I think they're better than Baylor. I didn't say that they...
Florida, and you said they could beat Baylor.
Okay, I did say that. No, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
Oops. Yeah, okay. They're more talented on defense, they're more talented on special teams, and they have more talented running back. Those are three areas that I think you're going to need to be more talented in. They're also athletic and fast, which is not something Baylor usually does well with on offense.
Well, you can look back into last year and you can say they were more talented in all those same spots.
Absolutely.
But Baylor still went to Austin and beat them, and I don't see what the difference would be in that this year. Just because Texas defense is better than Baylor's offense is better than Texas. Baylor has as good of a run game this year as last.
I mean, you can't say Texas team last year because Texas last year is Garrett Gilbert and all the other idiots. You're done? Kyle's taking a momentary break because he's got way too much Baylor pride right now, and he needs to step back from the table and become the pessimist Baylor hater that he usually is. You need to come back and be the pessimist Baylor fan. Be the realist Baylor fan and realize that the talent levels aren't even close.
I know the talent levels aren't close, but the talent levels weren't close last year either. And Baylor does easily have the better quarterback.
Yes, they do.
And as long as he stays healthy, I think Baylor can compete against Texas because I don't think the Texas offense is good enough to just blow Baylor out of the water.
I don't
I
think
apologize for all my earlier tirades. I'm an idiot. Baylor's still Baylor. And we've actually got to beat some teams before I can go on tirades like this. In realignment news, it looks as if the Big 12 is saved. The Pac-12 decided they did not want to expand, leaving Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, along with Texas and Texas Tech, no other options. Missouri flirted with the SEC a little bit, but it looks like they're committed to the Big 12. A&M is officially gone as of the beginning of next football season. And it looks like Baylor will continue to play in a BCS conference, even if their previous track record has shown that they don't deserve it.
Awesome. Now we will move on to games to pick. Kyle, you went 4-2 last week. Your worst week of the season. I, on the other hand, went 5-1, which brings me a game closer. 2 games out. We're picking differently on 2 games this week. So, in the perfect world, we will be tied next week.
In the perfect world, you will be dead next week.
All right. Start with Alabama going to Florida. Who are you taking in this one?
I'm going to go with Alabama. We just talked about how they're one of the best 3 teams in the nation. The Swamp's a difficult place to play, but the Alabama defense will stifle the Charlie Weiss offense.
I agree. There's no reason not to pick Alabama, as we have the last few weeks on this podcast. Nebraska going to Wisconsin in their first Big Ten game. How do you see this shaking out?
I think that Wisconsin is a legitimate contender to win the national championship. Nebraska hasn't been super impressive, and for those reasons, I will pick Wisconsin.
I agree with you. Before last weekend, I probably would have picked Nebraska, but their non-showing against Wyoming really hurt that. And then I looked again, and it's a road game at Camp Randall. I don't want any part of that. I'll take Wisconsin and sleep soundly. And if Nebraska wins, that's great. That's great for them. But I think Wisconsin's definitely the better team. They're more balanced. I definitely know that.
Auburn is traveling to the fake USC, South Carolina. Harv, who do you have in that one?
I'll go with South Carolina. I'll go with the ranked team at home. That's really all I need. I don't trust Steve Spurrier, but I hope I don't have to in this one. We'll see what happens, but I'll take South Carolina.
I'll take Auburn in this one. They played Florida Atlantic this past week, who is now 0-3 after Auburn beat them. And I'll tell you what, Auburn put up 30 whole points on Florida Atlantic, and Florida Atlantic only put up 14 back. So while beating FAU by 16 does look like a strong showing, it's not. I'm taking South Carolina.
The Clemson Tigers, who have killed me the last 2 weeks, are going to Virginia Tech. Who are you going to take in this one? Are you taking the Tigers?
Clemson cannot keep winning. I want them to badly. They're my second favorite team, but they cannot keep winning. I'm taking Virginia Tech.
They've beat me the last 2 weeks. What I usually do is go against them again, but this time I will not. I will take them on the road against Virginia Tech, which is really a bold call. I don't feel good about that. But we're going to move on. Texas A&M and Arkansas. Texas A&M going to Arkansas. Actually, is that true? Are they playing this one at Cowboy Stadium?
No, they're playing at Cowboy Stadium.
Yes. They are playing at Cowboy Stadium. A&M coming off that loss. Are you going to take them?
I am going to take them. Both teams are coming off losses, but I do think A&M's defense will slow down the Arkansas offense more than the Arkansas defense will slow down the A&M offense. A&M just needs to take care of the ball, and I think they'll win this one. I hate saying that. Why do I keep doing this?
I'm going to go with Arkansas and hope that they rudely welcome Texas A&M to the SEC. I know it sounds weird to say, but I was kind of impressed with Arkansas against Alabama. They were definitely outmatched, but I thought some of the things they did were good. So I'm hoping Tannehill has another bad game and they lose. In fact, I hope they get run.
I think the past 2 years, A&M has lost back-to-back games against Oklahoma State and Arkansas. So you're looking to make it the trifecta here, and I'm looking to make it the trifecta because there's no one I despise more than Texas A&M.
All right, final game. Baylor going to Kansas State. Tough road game. Are you going with the Bears?
I've actually been rethinking this for the entire podcast. I don't know who to pick still. I've got to go with Baylor, I think. I think I'll go with Baylor. I'm really unsure because you told me to be the pessimistic / realistic Baylor fan, and it brought back years of heartache. It brought back needing to take a knee, trying to prove a point, fumbling, a 99-yard return for a touchdown to lose the game. It brings back everything.
So
I'll pick Baylor.
Okay, all right. That's a good choice because, as you've stated before, your offense is absolutely incredible. I don't think Kansas State is that amazing. I don't think they're going to have near enough to compete on the defensive side with that offense. It's really one of those games that the Baylor D has to step up and do something. Really just anything. And special teams as well. Can't give up field position. But Baylor's D has to step up and just do anything and let Robert Griffin take care of the rest because right now the offense is on a roll. So I will take Baylor as well. All right, anything else? You look very troubled.
I am troubled. I hate you for making me be myself again.
Oh, man.
It's a hard day. It's a hard day.
Yeah, hard, tough life. Tough life.
Stupid Baylor.
All right, well, thank you for joining us for another week of the Get Buckets podcast. We'll be back next Monday with hopefully some good news for Baylor fans and hopefully some not so good news for A&M fans. And other than that, get buckets.
Get bucket.
1, 2. Check me out right here, yo.
Sell out in the stores. You tell me who flop, who cop the blue drop, who Jews got black.